Hello everybody. Welcome to DRM Engineering. In today's video, we will get to know the basics of motors, the definition, working types, and main parts. Let's get into the video. Motor. A motor converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. In other words, the devices which produce rotational force is known as the motor. The working principle of the electric motor mainly depends on the interaction of magnetic and electric field, DC motor and AC motor. An electric motor operated by direct current is known as a DC motor. The motor that converts the alternating current into mechanical power by using an electromagnetic induction phenomenon is called an AC motor. Principle of DC motor. When a current-carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a torque and has a tendency to move. In other words, when a magnetic field and an electric field interact, a mechanical force is produced. The DC motor works on that principle. This is known as motoring action. For working of DC motor, first we know about construction. DC motor consists stator, which act as magnetic poles, and rotor or armature, rotating part, commutator, and brushes, to keep the torque on a DC motor from reversing every time the coil moves through the plane perpendicular to the magnetic field. A split ring device called a commutator is used to reverse the current at that point. The electrical contacts to the rotating ring are called brushes. Since copper brush contacts were used in early motors, modern motors normally use spring-loaded carbon contacts. When armature windings are connected to a DC supply, an electric current sets up in the winding. Magnetic field may be provided by field winding or by using permanent magnets. In this case, current-carrying armature conductors experience a force due to the magnetic field, according to the principle of Lorentz law. Commutator is made segmented to achieve unidirectional torque. Otherwise, the direction of force would have reversed every time when the direction of movement of conductor is reversed in the magnetic field. This is how a DC motor works. Fleming's left-hand rule. If we stretch the first finger, second finger and thumb of our left hand to be perpendicular to each other, and the direction of magnetic field is represented by the first finger, direction of the current is represented by the second finger, then the thumb represents direction of the force experienced by the current-carrying conductor. Before getting to know about induction motor, let us take a look at the animation that follows, and further understand the working of a DC motor. When the coil is powered, a magnetic field is generated around the armature. The left side of the armature is pushed away from the left magnet and drawn towards the right, causing rotation. When the coil turns through 90 degrees, the brushes lose contact with the commutator, and the current stops flowing through the coil. However, the coil keeps turning because of its own momentum. Now, when the coil turns through 180 degrees, the sides get interchanged. As a result, the commutator C1 is now in contact with the brush B2, and commutator C2 is in contact with brush B1. Therefore, the current continues to flow in the same direction. Again, brushes and the split rings lose contact when the coil turns to an angle of 270 degrees. The coil has a tendency to stop, but due to inertia of motion, continues to rotate till it covers 360 degrees. The process continues. Observe that the magnetic couple is maximum at 0 degrees and 180 degrees, and 0 at 90 degrees, and 270 degrees. Induction motor. There are basically two types of induction motor, depending upon the type of input supply: single-phase induction motor and three-phase induction motor. Working principle of an induction motor. The motor which works on the principle of electromagnetic induction is known as the induction motor. The electromagnetic induction is the phenomenon in which the electromotive force induces across the electrical conductor when it is placed in a rotating magnetic field. Parts of induction motor are front cover, back cover casting frame, rotor and stator, ball bearings, cooling fan, stator and rotor. Stator is a stationary part of the motor. The stator of the induction motor consists of three main parts: stator frame, stator core, stator winding. Stator frame. The stator frame is the outer part of the motor. The function of the stator frame is to provide support to the stator core and stator winding. It provides mechanical strength to the inner parts of the motor. The frame has fins on the outer surface for heat dissipation and cooling of the motor. Stator core. The function of stator core is carry the alternating magnetic flux. The core is laminated high-grade steel stamping. These are insulated by each other by varnish. Starter winding. The stator winding is placed inside the stator slots available inside the stator core. Three-phase winding is placed as a stator winding, and three-phase supply is given to the stator winding. The number of poles of a motor depends on the internal connection of the stator winding, and it will decide the speed of the motor. Rotor. The rotor is a rotating part of the motor. According to the type of rotor, the induction motor is classified as squirrel cage induction motor, phase wound induction motor or slip ring induction motor. The rotor consists of a cylindrical laminated core and has slots on the outer periphery. The slots are not parallel but it is skewed at some angle. The squirrel cage rotor consists of rotor bars instead of the rotor winding. The rotor bars are made up of aluminum, brass, or copper. Wound rotor. In phase wound rotor, the rotor winding is wounded in such a way that the number of poles of rotor winding is the same as the number of poles of the stator winding. The rotor winding can be connected as a star or delta. End terminals of rotor windings are connected to the slip rings. So, this motor is known as a slip ring induction motor. With that, we come to the end of today's video. Hope all of you have got to know the basics of motors. We'll meet you with another interesting video next time. Do keep supporting as usual. Also do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Until next time, it is bye from DRM.